Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hello, fine, thank you.
Good. Good to hear. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I have just a few questions to ask you, just to find out a bit about what it is that you do, and also any changes that you've noticed in the sector recently. So, first of all, if you could just tell me a bit about your position, and what it involves.
Okay, so for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been school improvement partner with a company called TCES, the Complete Education Solution. So currently I'm part-time, 3 days a week, but over that long period and still now, that's involved monitoring, quality assurance and training in the areas of teaching and learning, curriculum, and leadership development. Particularly quite a lot on strategic curriculum development to deliver the vision and the values of the company, and recruitment at all levels, but mainly I've been involved with leadership recruitment for the group.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you. And what kind of changes have you seen in the sector recently?
Well, it's all changed for the last 30 years. But a real healthy return to a broad and balanced curriculum for all pupils, mainstream and specialist education providers. A reminder of what's really important in schools, so a focus on that broadness rather than an overemphasis on one or two data sets around key subjects that really skew what education's all around, really. So
Yeah,
judging for the outcomes in a more holistic way. And one of the changes, of course, is I have to say, I think we've got the best chief inspector of schools that we've had in 30 years or more. So, that helps both in mainstream and specialist education to be judged and inspected against the real things that are important in that sector.
yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. And what would you say are the kind of key challenges that's facing the sector at the moment that's perhaps causing these changes?
Well, the key challenges at the moment, obviously, with coronavirus and lockdown are ensuring child mental health, which is quite specific to a smaller number of pupils, but it's also about child and staff well-being, mental well-being for staff and pupils. So that's a real challenge because it's not something we've been particularly, we've got a reputation for in the past across, the broadest sense of education, but we need to, and because teachers are up against huge challenges at the moment and support staff, and so are all our youngsters, not just those who are deemed to have mental health issues. But of course, then we've got that section alone that needs a lot of support as well and a lot of additional resources. So some real challenges there, but also that we've got a challenge to really genuinely learn from these conditions that we're working under at the moment, and what is going to shift, what are our changes going to be, fundamental changes to the way we deliver specialist education as a result of what we've learned from COVID-19. And that takes a lot to dig deep and say, actually, we got it wrong before and we've learned from COVID that we've got some changes to make.
Absolutely. It's almost in some ways, I think, worth having this big reform, and it's almost necessary to realise what the kind of gaps were before and use it as an opportunity to build on that in ways which maybe the special education system and mainstream education system was lacking before. So yeah, really.
And we need to have a team of people to invest and an initiative and a significant amount of investment to find out what those lessons are.
Yeah, 100%. Perfect. Thank you. And what would you say are your biggest challenges when it comes to recruitment and retention?
Obviously, we'd always like a wider field for all the appointments we're advertising or vacancies we're advertising. I also think it's really attracting people with the heart in it. Specialist education, often people avoid applying for it because they don't have the experience, but actually it's much more about the commitment and the heart of wanting to do the best for pupils who present often in a very challenging way, whether that be their physical or mental health needs or whether it be their behaviour. It can be well, it's nearly always very challenging. And so it's about attracting the right people, not necessarily the perfect set of experience behind them, but the real heart in the right place, and attitude. And one of the hardest things is for people to be confident enough to say, to recognise what they don't know and to be honest about that as they enter into the specialist education sector.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I suppose it's not completely uncommon to want to know absolutely everything, because when you're in a position of responsibility that you are with children, it can sometimes, I would imagine, feel like you are slightly lacking if you were to admit that there's something that you don't know. But yeah, having your heart in the right place, I suppose upholding kind of values of who you're working for is massively important. So yeah, interesting to hear. Thank you. And as a final question, something a bit more lighthearted, if you were to take one thing with you to a desert island, what would it be?
Well, I didn't have to think too long for this one because you told me you'd ask that question. So it would be the very a music system with endless tracks, with the most expensive speakers on the planet, because I hate listening to poor quality sounds, whatever it is. So whether it's classical or jazz or pop or whatever, rock. So it's all of those on the best speakers on the planet, and obviously a solar power generator to run it all.
Perfect. A bit of jazz on some high quality speakers sounds perfect. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kevin. Really interesting to hear your thoughts. Yeah, thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Take care.
Bye-bye.